podcast, Twitch and YouTube channels. We're here today with the FPL show. We're going to go through all things FPL that's happened over the last week and look to see how our teams are doing in the Football Feast Extra podcast league, as we normally do here. And we're going to go through players' performance. We've got another international break coming up. Maybe think about using some wild cards, some free hits. Spoiler alert, I did use my free hit last week. We're going to go through that as well and see how it did. If you haven't caught the full episode, the full podcast yet, it was recorded, it was live streamed yesterday on just on Twitch, and that was just me and Baron yesterday. We had a lot of laughs talking about all the games over the weekend. If you haven't seen that yet, go check that out. There'll also be an audio recording of that on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all of that stuff tomorrow night, 6 p.m. as usual. So that being said, let's get into FPL. We'll start, as we always do, by reviewing the top 5 teams in the FPL league. And those teams are going to be quite familiar to us now because they've managed to keep hold of these top 5 spots. I think only the 5th place is different to last week. So there's a bit of rotation there, but the top 3 or 4 spots seem to be pretty much locked down. Let's go through them then. In first place, we'll see Boys in the Hood, Courtney Robinson. We seem to review this team every week, but that's because they're first every week, and that's what you get for being first. You get deep insight into your team on the FPL show. So let's take a look. We just want to note, though, as well, that Courtney Robinson, he has 515 points. Second place, 506. So that gap has closed significantly. Courtney actually only got 49 points this week. I say only, it's not a bad score. But if you look at second place there, 57. Closing that gap, Stephen Dale, Arteka's, which we'll go into in just a little bit. So, Boys in the Hood, let's take a look at who they've got in goal. First of all, Emi Martinez, 3 points. You know what? It was a difficult game for Villa, really. No clean sheet for them. 1 bonus point, so some saves made. It's not a bad pick, Martinez. Could have been better, could have been worse. Let's look at the defence then. Dan Burn, 1 point. Newcastle could not keep a clean sheet. Actually, he conceded 2 goals to West Ham. Not a good week for Dan Burn owners. Dan Burn, of course, scored in the last game, so it was a big win for Newcastle. Lots of points for Burn. Also scored against PSG in the Champions League. Udogie seems to be a popular choice. Despite Tottenham going down to 10 men against Luton didn't really look like scoring, let's be honest. 6 points for Udogie. So, you know, good for Udogie owners, good for anyone on Spurs defenders, really. Matty Cash, 2 points. Gone for an Aston Villa defender and the Aston Villa goalkeeper. I want to say that's brave, but I did something very similar in my team with Fulham. So it just didn't really work out for Villa after conceding to Wolves. Let's look at the midfield then, and we've got the star performer by the looks of it, Mo Salah, 15 points after scoring 2 goals and getting 3 bonus points in the 2-2 draw with Brighton. Really good week for Mo Salah owners. James Ward-Prowse, 2 points. James Maddison with 6, Almiron with 1, and Heung-min Son, a popular captain choice this week. Tottenham, of course, having Luton, didn't perform, really. Didn't even get that close to scoring. Of course, Tottenham going down to 10 men in sort of the 40th minute, 35th, 40th minute, meant that Tottenham were really focused on protecting the lead that they've got for themselves. Disappointing. I think a lot of people would have been caught out this week because a lot of people would have stacked their teams full of Tottenham assets. But Tottenham, unfortunately, unless you've got the defenders, you're not going to get a lot of points. Almiron, yellow card, played 81 minutes, 1 point. It wasn't a good week for Almiron, but I think it was a decent choice to put him in because he's been in good form. It was just not to be at the weekend. Maddison did get an assist for the goal that was scored by Tottenham and a clean sheet. So if you've got James Maddison, you've had an okay week. James Ward-Prowse only with 2 points, just played the 90. Nothing to note for West Ham there. Erling Haaland, 2 points against Arsenal, not scoring, not even having a shot. Had an expected goal ratio of 0.0 xG. Not a good week for Haaland or Alvarez owners, really, or anyone connected to Man City. Ollie Watkins with 5 points, played 90 minutes, and he did get an assist for the Villa goal. Let's check the bench then. Matt Turner, 6 points, would have been the better choice for in goal after Nottingham Forest held Crystal Palace to a 0-0 draw. Lascelles with 1 point, Archer with 2, and Gusto with 0. Pretty solid choices for the bench, actually. Not really any points there. But again, congratulations to Courtney, who is still top of the league. Let's look at Arteta's then. 57 points for him. Good week for Stephen Dale. Let's take a look at their goalkeeper. David Raya, 6 points straight away. That is a brave choice. You know, when you're playing Man City, ideally you don't want the other team's defenders, really, or the goalkeeper, because Man City score a lot of goals and Arsenal concede a lot of goals at home. But David Raya did keep a clean sheet despite looking a bit shaky. 6 points. Really good decision there to start Raya. Trippier is always a solid pick. I said this on the live podcast yesterday. Even if Kieran Trippier doesn't keep a clean sheet with Newcastle, he's guaranteed points. He gets so many assists. And as you can see here, he did get an assist, lost a point for goals conceded, but also picked up 2 bonus points. He is an FPL machine. He must be in your teams. You know, in terms of I would say he's almost as valuable as what Erling Haaland is at the other end, Kieran Trippier. If you have to choose between having somebody like Salah and Trippier, I would pick Trippier. He's just been fantastic this season, and we'll take a look at how many points he's got in total a little bit later on. Matty Cash, we spoke about already, 2 points. Rico Lewis, 6 points. Now, what a decision that was. Rico Lewis actually played in midfield. Seems to have got points for a clean sheet. This can't be right here. Rico Lewis, 6 points. He got a clean sheet when Arsenal won 1-0. I suppose he probably came off before the goal went in. I think that's probably why he's still got the clean sheet points. So, okay, I'll let him off. That's probably what happened. As you can see, yeah, he played 67 minutes. Goal was scored in the 86th. So, okay, bit lucky there. But Rico Lewis, it was a good decision to put him in because, I mean, he's not been a regular for Man City. You just don't know who's going to play. Really brave decision. Let's look at midfield then. And oh my word, this looks colourful. You've got Bukayo Saka, did not play, did not feature at all for Arsenal in the 1-0 win against City. And then it gets even worse. We go from 0 points to Yves Bissouma, -2 after that deserved red card against Luton. That blatant dive for the second yellow was my highlight of the weekend other than the Arsenal win. For me, I think that was great refereeing, but let's not get sidetracked. I spoke about it in more detail on the podcast, which you can watch on Twitch. Mitoma, 2 points. He didn't really do anything against Liverpool. I mean, you could argue he could have had a penalty for the handball by Van Dijk, but he wouldn't have got the assist for that because he wasn't fouled. It would have been a no assist goal if that had been given. Mo Salah, I think, has saved this week, really. I mean, there's a few 6-pointers in there. It's a steady week, but Mo Salah, 15 points. And then Alexander Isak, 13 points. The first time we've seen him in a team this week. A very good decision as well to have Isak. So Isak and Salah, 15 and 13. Erling Haaland was the skipper, 4 points. Heung-min Son was actually a better option as captain. Not that he performed either, but Erling Haaland left as captain. I always find it a little strange when you captain the striker, but then put the opposition's goalkeeper in goal for your team. I mean, I guess you can look at it as if one doesn't perform, the other one probably has performed, and you'll get the points there. But personally, I would look at changing my keeper if I was going to captain Erling Haaland. Turner actually was 6 points as well, so either way, the goalkeeper was fine. There wasn't much on the bench either, so maybe there was just not much that can be done transfer-wise at this point. But yeah, I always find it strange when we see a striker and a goalkeeper in the same team that are playing against each other. We've got Bell, Estepinion, and Gomez, all unavailable, all with 0 points on the bench. But actually, 57 points, not a bad week at all for Arteta's, has definitely made some ground up this week. Let's go into third place then. We've got Blake Cowley. Still hasn't changed his name. I don't even think he can now. So he's going to be known as changed name every episode that we do. 45 points. Let's see who we've got then. We've got another team with Matt Turner in goal. What value Matt Turner's been, to be honest. He's very cheap because he was priced when he was Arsenal's number 2. So, you know, he's such a good value goalkeeper. I think most people have probably got him in their teams. Kieran Trippier, mentioned him already, 6 points solid from him. The same with Udogie, 6 points. Fabian Schär, only the 1 point, of course, no clean sheet for Newcastle. So yeah, not a good week really for Newcastle defenders unless you've got Kieran Trippier. And Matty Cash, another one we've seen a few times this week, 2 points for him. We go down and we see another Son captain, 6 points. The thought was good, but it just didn't work out. Would have been better off maybe captaining Maddison. Erdegaard also with 3 points. We haven't seen him yet, a clean sheet, but wasn't involved in the goal. Maddison, of course, 6 points we've discussed already. We then look up front. We've got Erling Haaland, Julian Alvarez, and Ollie Watkins. So I think we're going to see a theme here of a low-scoring week. Lots of people still keeping with Alvarez and Haaland for that Arsenal game. I'm probably going to see the Arsenal fans do quite well point-wise because I think a lot of Arsenal fans have backed Haaland and Alvarez to not have a great game against them. So we'll put that theory to the test later on. Ollie Watkins there with 5 points. Areola on the bench with 1. Saka put on the bench. Good decision that. 0 points. He actually may have been subbed out by FPL. There's no way of telling. But let's say the manager did this because why not? Anderson then with 2 points and then Kabore with 0. Okay, let's look at 4th place, 48 points. And it is AFC Joe Lintonali, and the one that's keeps creeping into the top 5. 48 points. Vicario, 7 points in goal. Very, very good decision to play him. He's actually looking like a decent goalkeeper, to be honest, from what I've seen in Vicario. 7 points for him. We then look at the back 4. Looks very colourful. 2 doubts for next week, but let's talk about this week. Disasi, 2 points, and Aurier with 1. Cristiano Romero, though, 8 points for him. Got 2 bonus points. Good day to have Spurs defenders, especially the 2 centre-backs. Trippier there, as we spoke about a few times, 6 points, and a lot of people have got him in the team now. Let's look at the midfield then. We've got Jarrod Bowen. Good decision to put him in, really, if you think about it. But against Newcastle, I would have probably waited until after this fixture, really, unless he was in the team already. 2 points for Bowen. Never really going to get much change against Newcastle, even though they did score 2 goals. James Maddison with 6 points we've discussed, and Moussa Diaby, 2 points. Didn't really do much in the draw against against Wolves, and was subbed off after 61 minutes. We look up front, we see Alvarez and we see Haaland, as we've seen on a few teams. 4 points between them. But what we do see in this team is Ollie Watkins was the captain. Now, this is the highest captain's points return we've seen so far. So even though it still wasn't a great decision because he's only got 5 points, it's the best decision we've seen for a captain so far this week. So very, very well done, Ollie Watkins as the skipper. On the bench, we've got Areola with 1 point. Bukayo Saka, no points. Estepinian with none, but no points. Anthony Gordon didn't play at all. 0 points. Good decision to bench Gordon. Okay, and we're going to look at 5th place. And we're going to look at our very own Sean Barron, who has snuck into 5th place. If we look at how close it is between 5th and 4th, 2 points in it between 5th and 4th place. It's very, very tight at the top of the league. It's me, Mario, didn't quite make it in this week with 489. Let's check Barron's team out. 67 points. Very good points return. Let's see who he went with. We start with Matt Turner in goal. Popular option, a solid 6 points we've already talked about. Pinnock, 1 point. Pinnock is very, very unlucky because he had a great game against Manchester United until Scott McTominay came on and scored those 2 goals. So, yeah, unlucky Pinnock. Pau Torres, great game for him. Conceded, but he also scored, as well as getting 2 bonus points. So Pau Torres, 10 points. No one else seems to have him in their team, so good decision that. William Saliba, absolutely phenomenal. Marshalling Erling Haaland, 7 points for him. I think he got a bonus point there, yeah, and the clean sheet points. Also a doubt. I didn't realise he took a knock in that game. Apparently he's a doubt. Anderson with 2. Heung-min Son with 6 points, the captain. We've seen it a few times now. Heung-min Son wasn't the choice. The man next to him, though, Mo Salah, would have been the perfect choice for captain. But who would have known? Tottenham against Luton, you would think that it would have been all Son, but wasn't to be. And then Hudson-Odoi with 3 points. No way through the Crystal Palace defence. Up front, we've got Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez. So it looks like Barron has stuck with the Man City attackers, despite being an Arsenal fan. But of course, if you don't have the transfers available to you to get them out, then that is what you're stuck with. Also, Alexander Isaac up front with 13 points. So another person with Isaac and Mo Salah, as well as Pau Torres getting 10. It's an extremely good week for Barron this week. Fantastic. Let's look at the bench. Ederson on the bench. Ederson rotated out for Matt Turner. Great decision that. Got him an extra 5 points. Bukayo Saka benched. Lamptey 0 and Gusto with 0. So really, really good stuff from Barron. Before we move on to the fixtures and the statistics, we are going to take a look at my team, Billy's team, and Tommy's team, as we do on this show every week. We'll scroll down the list until we find the first person. I actually think it might be me. Yeah, so I am first, and you can see I'm actually level on points with Billy, the other host, 446 in total. I had a pretty good week, 66 points, only 1 point off Barron. I don't think anybody managed a higher points total this week than myself and Barron. Oh no, sorry, I'm Umar Masaji, 75 points. So that's the one to beat this week. But let's take a look at my team. I went with Bernd Leno and Guy. Look, I use my free hit, so my team is pretty much who I wanted to put in. You'd expect me to have a high points total. I'm a bit disappointed I didn't get even higher. I thought that I would take advantage of a week where a lot of the top teams were sort of playing each other. People had a lot of Brighton assets. They were playing Liverpool. Obviously, Man City playing Arsenal. I thought that this was a good week to maybe use my free hit and get in some of those players that other people didn't have. It sort of worked. It sort of didn't. Bernd Leno conceded 3-1. Fulham beat Sheffield United. And I also put in Castagna from that Fulham defence. So only 2 points apiece for each of those. Kieran Trippier I've spoken about already with 6 points. Joachim Anderson for Crystal Palace. I spoke about him on last week's show. He actually, at the time of recording the last week, had more points than Mo Salah in FPL this season. And for that reason, I put him in, considering Crystal Palace had Nottingham Forest. I thought it was a good fixture for him. And he did all right. He got 6 points. So, a solid choice, Joachim Anderson. We go to the midfield now, and we see where it starts to unravel, really. Heung-min Son was my captain, as we've seen with plenty of other teams before me. 6 points, not the best from him. James Maddison, 6 points. I also had Kulusevski, the only person I've seen so far with him. Not that it proved to really matter, only 3 points for him. Of course, that sending off completely changed the game. I did, however, stick with Mo Salah, that was in my original team. 15 points for him. I'm glad I stuck with him. I also brought in Alexander Isaac, who got 13 points. So Isaac and Salah together is pretty much what saved my week. Ollie Watkins up front with 5 points. And I also had Højlund, who I thought looked really good in the Champions League. I thought he would do well. He didn't really do great. Man United were poor. Scott McTominay saved them, really. And then we'll look at the bench. Sorry, I have Stefan, who I was just putting in for a cheap goalkeeper because it's a free hit. It's a one-time thing. The bench doesn't matter, right? Just put in the cheapest players I could find, really. Neto with 5 points. I put him in just in case somebody didn't make it and I needed a sub. Neto actually did get more points than someone like Kulusevski. Is he actually a forward in this? Or I think he's a midfielder. So, yeah, a bit unlucky, but it's only 2 points. Thiago Silva with 1, and Rafael Varane didn't play for Man United, was injured or unavailable. So that is my team. Let's go down to see Billy's team then. He had a horrific week last week. He's done slightly better this week, 49 points. But he did also make 3 transfers. So it's a minus 8 points for Billy. He's got Rob Sanchez in goal. It is Rob Sanchez. I think I got his name wrong the other week, so just making sure. 2 points for Sanchez. Obviously, Chelsea did concede to Burnley in that 4-1 win. Dalot, Udogie, and Pinnock. Again, Pinnock was desperately unlucky. Dalot, Man United, it's just risky having Man United defenders at the moment. Maddison with 6 points we've spoken about, and Salah. Luis Diaz with 2 points. Somebody that's normally in my team that I took out for this game. Only 2 points this week for him. Heung-min Son, the captain, with 6. Julian Alvarez was left in by Billy, who did remove Erling Haaland. Both obviously didn't do very well. Neither did Rasmus Højlund, who I had 2. Ollie Watkins with 5 points. So it was other than Salah, it was a very sort of average performing week. Lots of 5 and 6 pointers in this team. On the bench, we have Flecken, Gordon, Estepinion, and Sven Botman. So finally, let's go down and look at Tommy's team, who's a little bit further down. Here we are. He's actually rising up a few places this week to 35th in the league. 36 points for Tommy. also with a -4 there. Let's take a look at who he had. Nick Pope in goal. Newcastle couldn't keep a clean sheet. Akanji didn't play at all against Arsenal. Cash with 2 points. Got Lewis Dunk though, who did not only play, he got a goal and a bonus point. So 8 points for Dunk. That was the first time we've seen him. That was a good pick. Let's go into midfield then, and this is where again it starts to get a little bit sketchy. We've got Mbuemo, who Tommy has stuck with, but 2 points. He might be time to ship him out. Gerald Bowen, who I think is fine to keep in. It's Newcastle with a tough game. Martin Odegaard with 3. He's always a safe bet. Human Son as the captain, as we've seen, probably the most captain player this week. 6 points for him. And then we look up front. Darwin Núñez got an assist for one of the goals. Ollie Watkins, of course, got 5 points as well. And Julian Alvarez with 2. We look at the bench. There's no points here. We've got Virginia, Saka, Dummett, and Estepinian. So 36 points for Tommy. Not a great week for him. Starting to fall away a little bit in the league. Okay, so that's the teams. That's the league done. Let's take a look at the statistics for the players so we can see who we are going to put in the team next week. Okay, so we're looking at round points. So this is the players that got the most points this game week round. So we're going to start off at the top then. We've got Raheem Sterling, who nobody that we reviewed had Raheem Sterling in their team. And Sterling has just been so hit and miss this season. He's had a few really good games where he's hit really high points totals. As you can see, they're selected only by 9.3% of players. But 16 points for him, the top scoring player in FPL this week. So if you've got Raheem Sterling, well done, congratulations. Second is Mo Salah, as you'd probably expect, with 15 points, owned by 34% of people. A lot more people owning Mo Salah. We then look at Van der Veen, only owned by 2% of managers, scored for Tottenham, kept a clean sheet, 15 points. Looking like a decent signing for Tottenham, he really is. Jack Harrison, owned by 0.0% of people. Nobody in FPL owns Jack Harrison. I know he's been injured, he's not been available. 14 points for him. Really liked him at Leeds. Might be somebody worth having on your bench for games like that. If he's going to start regularly for Everton, he's not a bad player. He's 5.5 million, maybe a little bit on the slightly pricey side, but not owned by anyone. Scott McTominay, owned by 0.1% of managers, of course, came on, scored 2 goals. I mean, I'm not saying you should all go and rush and get Scott McTominay. He's obviously got a goal in him. He's a defensive midfielder. He doesn't start regularly for Man United. They were pretty much forced to bring him on. And I don't think that the 2 goals he scored today or earlier in the week are going to help him get into that team. Man United want rid. So I would probably steer clear of Scott McTominay. Alexander Isak is a safe bet, 13 points, normally up and around there. Scores a fair few goals for Newcastle. Maybe got a knock, maybe worth keeping an eye on. As you can see, owned by 21.6% of managers. Cole Palmer, only owned by 0.9%, less than 1%. 12 points, got his first goal for Chelsea. I quite like Cole Palmer. I just don't know with Chelsea when he's going to start. There's so many players that can play in and around his position. He's only 4.9 million. He's not that expensive. He looks like he's got a bit of a knock as well, though. But congratulations to the less than 1% of you that own Cole Palmer. We then go to Pau Torres, 10 points, obviously scoring the goal, owned by 2.4% of managers. Matthias Jensen, only 5.4 million, 2.1% of you own him, 10 points. William Hechan, also on 10 points, owned by 0.4 and 0.8% of you. So that's who played well this week. Let's see what that's done to the overall table of total points for the season. Ollie Watkins still top, joint now with Mo Salah. It's interesting how Mo Salah had less points than Anderson last game week. Salah now is joint top after a really strong week, 15 points for him. Erling Haaland is in third, 55 points. Does actually, show a testament to Haaland that he completely blanked this week and is still third on this list. I think people are starting to ask the question, is he worth the money that we have to pay to have him in our teams? And a lot of people are just having more fun with FPL without Erling Haaland in the team because he's your captain pretty much every week. It's nice to have that choice and to have that little bit of regret. Oh, who have I picked as captain? Oh, I picked the wrong player. Because you pick Haaland practically every week. Everyone does. So it's really good to have him. out the team. A lot of you still got him though, owned by 88.9% of managers. So that's probably lower than it was. It was probably over 90%, but maybe now is the time to get rid. Human Son, 54 points. A few poor game weeks, but he's had a few magnificent game weeks. Blanked, obviously, in this one. Bukayo Saka for Arsenal. He obviously didn't play in the City game. 53 points for him. Owned by 50% of you, interestingly. He's still high up on that list. Anderson does make up the top 6. 51 points for him. Owned by 16%. Joe Bowen then on 50. Kieran Trippier, other than Anderson, is the top scoring defender on this list. I mean, obviously Anderson has hit some form. I think the thing is with Anderson, though, is you can expect that point tally to drop off eventually because Crystal Palace don't keep as many clean sheets as Newcastle. And Anderson doesn't get as many goal contributions as Kieran Trippier. So, again, Trippier's the one to watch, but 49 points, along with Julian Alvarez with 48, Madison 47, Erdegaard 46, and Jensen 46 points. So that is your top performing players for this week and so far this season. And before we go, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the fixtures for next week, well, after the international break, because we've got that to get out of the way, and maybe see about changes that we can make to our teams. So we're going to just go through next week. It's a bit of a weird fixture arrangement next week. I noticed we've got 2 games on the Saturday evening, but this time we do have our 12:30 kickoff. So it looks like that Super Sunday Spot's been affected. 1 game at 4:30, no game at 2 o'clock on Sunday. I don't know why they can't just go back to doing it how they used to do it, where you're going to get your 2 games on your Sunday, your 2 games on your Saturday, but here we are. So let's start with a Merseyside derby, Liverpool versus Everton. These are just you never know which way derby's going to go, especially this one. I mean, in theory, if you take the emotion out of it, this is a good week to have Liverpool assets, but you just never know in a derby. Bournemouth versus Wolves, that's one where I think if you've got somebody like Neto, your Wolves attackers, I think they can have a quite a bit of joy against this Bournemouth team. Wolves seem to have found a bit more confidence in front of goal recently. Bournemouth haven't won yet this season, looking a little bit hapless. Brentford versus Burnley. Oh, I mean, Burnley just ship goals, don't they? If you've got people like Mbuemo, Wisa, if you've got Brentford attackers, Burnley do ship goals. So bear that in mind. Manchester City versus Brighton. Cool, you know what? Brighton's run of fixtures does not get any easier. But I suppose you could say the same thing about Man City. Brighton, not an easy team to come up against. But I think there'll be goals in this one. Brighton, as good as they've been going forward, they've been shipping in goals defensively. If you've got your Haaland and your Alvarez and you want to keep Haaland in your team, I mean, you really have to until other people start dropping him. When he wants to still owned by 88% of people, it's very risky to be dropping Haaland every week. Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace have actually been quite solid defensively. You would fancy Newcastle, though, to do some damage here, especially at home. So those people that have got Anderson, maybe this is the week to drop him, to put him on the bench, or to maybe look to bring in somebody like Kieran Trippier if you don't have him in your team already. Nottingham Forest versus Luton. Wow. People with Hudson-Odoi, Alanga. Look, as much as I want to say that Luton have a chance in this game, and I know they beat Everton the other week, Luton are the poorest team in this league by some distance. I wouldn't maybe load your team with Forest players, but it'd be good if you can get one attacker in there if you've got the space to do so. We've then got the game of the weekend, Chelsea versus Arsenal. Talking of fixtures not getting any easier for teams. Arsenal had City and now are away to Chelsea. Chelsea might be back. Chelsea with a few good results. 4-1, they beat Burnley. They won again the week before, a 2-1 victory on the Monday Night Football. So, Chelsea building up some confidence. At home, it's going to be a close game. I wouldn't be shipping in any Chelsea or Arsenal assets this week. If you've got them already, that's fine. But I probably would look at sticking with what you've got. Let's wait for this fixture to clear, and then we'll look at the run for both teams. Sheffield United versus Manchester United. I'd love to say fill your squad with Man United players. It's another team that you just don't know what you're going to get. This is one where I would say put Man United defenders in. In theory, people like Onana, people like Even Maguire, if he's playing at the moment because of the injuries. But Onana's got so many mistakes in him. Man United leak goals, even against Sheffield United, don't score many. This might be one to leave out your Man United defence, especially away from home. Aston Villa take on West Ham on Sunday. This will be a really, really good game. I'm glad it's a Super Sunday. I think, again, this is one for the attackers. I think that both teams will score goals. It's not an easy fixture for either team, so I would maybe not lean into the squads. But if you've got players like Diaby or Watkins or Antonio or James Ward-Prowse, I wouldn't be thinking about taking them out because I think there's goals in this game. The Monday Night Football is a London derby. Tottenham Hotspur versus Fulham. Tottenham at home, of course, in really good form. Fulham just don't look quite on it this season. Nothing like they did last season. They're definitely missing Mitrovic. If you've brought in Spurs assets for the Luton game, I think that you can keep your team pretty much loaded with them until Spurs run into some more difficult fixtures. Spurs v Fulham, expect Spurs players to pick up points. So that is everything. That is everything ran through. That is FPL for this week. There'll be no FPL show next week because, of course, there's no football. It's international football only. And I'm not here anyway. I'm actually going on holiday. I'm having a little break. But I'll be back the week after to review these games and see where everybody is in the table. Billy and Tommy will be here Thursday night at 8:30. They're doing a bit of a special extra time episode where they're doing a Premier League Cult Hero 11. Look out for that. That will be live on Twitch and YouTube Thursday 8:30. And then we'll be back next week with a full episode of our podcast, minus me, of course, not here. But the Baron and Billy will be back next week. See you then.
Yeah. Football Feast, Football Feast. This the Football Feast Extra podcast. Hey, Football Feast, Football Feast, Football Feast Extra podcast. Playing soccer, grab your cleats. Playing soccer, time to meet. Playing soccer, time to greet. They finna talk a lot, okay? Playing soccer, get the cleats. Playing soccer, let's get it. Playing soccer, let's go. Football podcast.